Hey guys, and welcome to this edition of Scruff's Garage. Today we're continuing with part of the engine build series, and today's project is installing a new clutch. If you followed my video series for a while, you know I've had some clutch issues, particularly losing hydraulic pressure and the clutch pedal sticking to the floor. I've tried a number of things, keeping the clutch fluid clean. I've got a tick performance clutch master cylinder, but none of that made a difference. I even did the Lingenfelter clutch pedal return spring, but none of that fixed it. So this was a great opportunity. While I've got the motor and drivetrain out of the car, I wanted to go ahead and upgrade to a new clutch, so I'm pretty excited about this one. So what I decided on was the Monster Stage 2 clutch for the LS motors, or for the Corvettes. I also got the 18-pound billet lightweight flywheel to go with it. And of course, I always recommend doing a new slave cylinder. That's one of the culprits. If you look at the old slave cylinder, it is nasty, and that's part of the reason you end up with so much clutch dust that passes by the seal inside of here and gets into your clutch fluid. So a new slave cylinder will go on. And then I also got the remote bleeder and speed bleeder. So that's your bleed port on the slave cylinder. So this will come out, and then this line will screw in, and then there's a speed bleeder on the end of it. So as you push the clutch pedal in, if you've loosened that, it'll push clutch fluid out. That way you can bleed the system, and then you tighten it and it closes again. So it's kind of like a one-way check valve used for bleeding the clutch system. So that'll be very handy. So in preparing for the install, there's a couple of things you'll need to do, particularly with the flywheel. If you've gotten a new flywheel, certainly if you're reusing your old one, you'll want to take it to a machine shop to get it resurfaced. If you're installing one of their flywheels, whether it's the standard 28-pound one or the lightweight 18-pound one, you need to get it cleaned up for the initial install. They put a protective coating on them for shipping and storage purposes, so you don't get any contamination on the friction surfaces. But you'll want to clean that off before you move on with installation. So I took this over to the solvent tank, and I lightly scrubbed with a little brush to get all of the coating, whatever it is that they put on there. I had to scrub a little bit to get it off. So I got that cleaned up. Of course, it's on both sides. We'll also, of course, you've got a friction surface here. I haven't cleaned this off yet, but this will just be brake cleaner to get this surface cleaned up. The other thing you'll need to do, so per their instructions, they include these dowel pins that need to be pressed or hammered in to the flywheel. So it's based on the size of the flywheel. So this is a 12-inch flywheel for the LS motors. So they have a diagram, so you can get it lined up with based on the so if you put these three holes that are together on the bottom, then it's in their diagram, it's the letter A, so you can see that it's this pin, and this pin. So these dowels get hammered in. So literally just a hammer, you smack it, and they'll press in. The pins are 1 inch long. The holes are 1/2 inch deep. So you can always measure after you're done just to make sure you've got them fully seated. But there's a step in the bottom of this hole, so you can't press them in too far. So that's nice. So you just hammer them in until they stop, and they should stick out 1 inch. And then we'll do a final clean as we get it, once it's mounted up on the motor. Again, this is a friction surface, so just like keeping your brake pads and your rotors clean for installation, same thing applies here. We don't want any grit and grime or grease from our hands on the friction surface, because that's going to get into the clutch disc material, and that would be bad. So we've got everything we need, so we'll get started with the installation. Okay, here we go. So we're ready to install the flywheel. You should have already installed, removed your old pilot bearing, and pressed in the new ones. That should be done. Maybe you did a new rear main seal as well. But so at this point, These should be installed with Loctite. Okay, so the flywheel bolts get torqued to spec in 3 passes. You'll use a star pattern. First pass is 15, then 37, and then 74 pound-feet. Okay, so one tip I'll mention, obviously I don't have the accessories and that sort of thing on the front of the motor, so the motor turns over pretty easily. But what you can do, so you can see this, I took one of the pressure plate bolts and I ran it into the back of the flywheel, and now I've just got it turned so that that bolt hits the side of the block, and that will keep the flywheel from turning while I'm torquing the flywheel bolts to spec. So we're on the 37 pound-feet pass right now. Okay, now we'll take some brake cleaner on a lint-free rag and wipe down the flywheel one last time. Okay, now we're ready to install the clutch disc and the pressure plate assembly over it. Okay, once you get the pressure plate bolt started, take a moment. You know, it's important that your alignment tool be able to slide in and out without a lot of resistance. You don't want to force the input shaft of the transmission, or in this case the torque tube, through there with a lot of pressure. So take a moment with the alignment tool in there and make sure it's lined up around the edges. You may have to loosen the bolts a little bit to kind of readjust and then kind of get it where you feel like things slide in and out without too many problems. And then you can move forward with torquing these to spec. Also, before you get too far along, don't forget these bolts should be installed with Loctite as well, which I forgot to do, so I'm going to back them out one by one and replace them with some Loctite on the bolts before I proceed with my torque pattern. Okay, so assuming you've installed everything with all the bolts with Loctite, you can still get your alignment tool in and out without any trouble. You're ready to go through the torque sequence. So just like the flywheel, we'll torque it in 3 steps. So the first pass is 20 foot-pounds, the second is 40, and then the final pass is 52. So I've already done the 20 foot-pound pass. Now I'm ready to step up to 40. Alright, then the final step is 52. Okay, there you go. So that's how the Monster Stage 2 clutch gets installed with the lightweight flywheel. Like I said, all the bolts get installed with Loctite. Make sure you get them torqued. They're torqued in 3 separate passes. Make sure your alignment tool, when you're finished, still goes in and out without any problems. If it doesn't, you need to start over because that will cause problems when you go to install the transmission and the torque tube assembly. Of course, the bell housing will go around this, but that's a separate install. So thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to post them in the comments. I'll help where I can. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.